Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Healing Broken Families podcast, where I host healing conversations around divorce, parental alienation, and high conflict relationships. I'm Barbara Pointe, your host and a certified divorce coach and relationship empowerment coach. I'm really pleased to be here today with Andrea Lukacs. Welcome, Andrea.
Welcome, everybody.
Awesome. Well, Andrea is an NLP trainer, a hypnosis coach, and psychological counselor joining us, maybe even live from Austria. And I'm in Canada. So what a crazy, wacky, wonderful world we're living in. So glad that you're here. A little bit about you, Andrea. I loved reading your bio. I noticed that you mentioned that when you entered the working world after studying economics, you noticed quickly how unhappy other people were in their lives. And I noticed that too. This awareness led you to having the courage to follow your passion of inspiring people to live life to the fullest. So you utilized your knowledge in human behavior, especially what has been triggered from your own past traumas. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now able to assist people in overcoming overwhelm, fear, shame, judgment, to communicating their needs and wants in a powerful way. So today we're going to focus on creating healthy boundaries and talk about emotionality. So without further ado, a warm welcome to you, Andrea.
Yes. Thank you very much. And I find it so important to set healthy boundaries, and to do so, it's essential to know oneself, to own their own emotions, and to be clear in mind of what is happening in a situation so we can act properly. And to do so, I always suggest to have a greater look in a situation, what is happening, how am I feeling, what am I thinking, how am I acting and behaving, and what was said, really said, not what I think was said, but what really was said. And by becoming aware, we have a more clear perspective on the situation, as I know that humans often tend to interpret situations based upon their past experiences and conditioning. So yes.
Yeah, I really like what I hear you saying because we all struggle with that when we're so emotional in the moment and our emotions are on high drive, how do we become more aware? I think that's a challenge that we all universally face. You said to bring more awareness to it, but how can we do that when we're so angry or sad and or so emotionally overwhelmed?
Yes, by accepting the situation or the emotion first. And there are a lot of emotions we can feel, but there are very little basic emotions, and to focus on them, which would be anger or sadness or pleasure or and when I feel anger, so I can admit to myself that I'm angry now, and then I can have a look on why am I angry? Have I felt this anger before, and what was happening then? Because often some situations trigger some past experiences, and there's a thought pattern between the feeling of anger and the reaction. And to stop and not react but have a look on what's really now, is to step a step backwards and have a look. And if the anger is very much in the body, so we want to release it first before we want to react. And we can do it by shaking our body, or have a look on which movement helps me to get this anger out of my body, uh, to ask myself, what thought have I had before this anger came? So being patient with oneself and having a look when exactly this feeling of anger popped up in our body and we became aware of it. So what was then happening? What was I thinking at that moment? And so we can become more clearer about it.
I'm really happy that you chose anger as the emotion because it's just a universal emotion that drives so many of our behaviors. And if we don't release it, like what you said, then the anger stays inside us. I personally think anger is a big one. And sometimes we don't want to admit that we're angry.
Yes, it's okay being angry because it's a basic human emotion and everyone feels it in a certain point in time or has felt it while growing up. And to admit that it is so at this moment and it is okay being so, um, we can some maybe choose to cry, go out in the wood and cry because it helps them to get it out of the body. But there's pushed a lot of adrenaline out in our body and we want to release it because it's not healthy for us. So each movement which helps us to release it, get it out, either it is doing sports, dancing, singing, whatever action helps a person at that moment in time.
Hmm. So releasing it from the body. And earlier I heard you mention just being patient with ourselves when we're angry. And to me, that's kind of like a form of just really self-love, to be patient with ourselves when we're feeling harder emotions to process, less pretty emotions like rage or anger. That's when we're really called to like invoke self-love, patience, self-compassion, right?
Yes, because if we don't, if we are not patient enough and we don't have a look on that anger, it will stay within our body, and the next time it will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So we want to stop this chain of emotions and becoming aware, so we can release them at that point in time by having a look on it, what happened, we can understand it. So it is not something which is subconsciously running and um, flowing over us, but we can say, stop, okay. I acknowledge it. I can feel the sensations. Maybe we want to have a look in the body. Where can I feel it? How is it? Is it moving or is it pulsating? Is it on stuck in one place? How which color will this anger have, for example, or where is it located? And by observing not the anger but then these sensations in the body, we can release them.
Hmm. Sounds like a very worthwhile process um, to process our anger. You mentioned earlier just going into the woods, maybe if you weren't with a counselor or something, just alone and screaming and yelling in in the woods. What about like screaming and yelling in your house or punching a pillow? Or what would be some, how can you deepen that? What would be some other strategies for releasing your anger in the moment when you don't have access to Barbara or Andrea or your favorite,
Yes,
support?
there are people who use the pillow as well, and if it helps, it's okay. But I wouldn't recommend screaming when others are beside. Maybe we can choose a place in our house where we are not heard, so we don't disturb the others while we are working on our release.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Andrea. Um, I've known people that have been angry for years and years and years. Like you can live, you can let anger live in your body for large portions of your life.
Yes, but we have to understand that there's a thought process behind. We have thoughts certain things, and then this feeling came up, and we can have felt it in the body. And to go really one step backwards will be a diamond step, not reacting automatically as we are maybe used to, as saying, that's me. But going backwards and having really a look on what happened here. And by understanding the situation, we can release it. We can choose how we want to act in future. And here at that point, when we know what we really want, is where we also set our boundaries, as a respect to ourselves, but on the other side we also respect the boundaries of others. And it's not a selfish process, but a process of respect and understanding.
Hmm.
How oftentimes a person feels angry because his own boundaries were hurt, and a person was not in the position to speak out for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. That would be an excellent example of feeling violated. Uh,
Yeah.
how can we use our emotions like anger or frustration or rage, sadness, grief, overwhelming fear? How can we use these emotions as our resource and flip it around?
Yes, by acknowledging them. So the first step will be acknowledging them, and then we can take corrective actions towards the desired emotion, because we simply are uh, in a position that we can control and manage our emotions. But if we understand having control on the emotions by suppressing them, so that will not work, because at any point in time they will pop up if they are suppressed. So therefore, I'm saying, have a look on it, become aware of it. It's okay to feel them, as everybody can feel their emotions if they allow it, and then we can take the advantage out of them. We can feel pleasure, and by being aware of the pleasure, the amount of pleasure we feel rises. So the benefit is in here.
Yeah, I think that's a really key point that you just shared with us is like moving and living and acknowledging the triggered emotion and then opening up to the desired emotional state. I-
Yes, and doing all the steps needed, so we can correct it, or we can correct it with our thinking, if we have a good um, clear picture of it, which is not labeled as we used to. So we step back and are true to ourselves and ask a lot of questions, so we can become aware of what is, and we can change it. We can shake it out, the emotions out of the body, or jumping or using the body to release it, and we can feel it. We can let them to be, because it's okay. They show us something, and we can have a look on it.
Hmm. Andrea, why is it valuable and essential to know oneself?
Yes, because then we are clear, we can be more productive. We have not thousand thoughts running in our mind, which produces confusion. And we are in our power and can take the next step towards our desired goal.
I like that. I often call that monkey mind for some reason, where your mind is just having those thousand thoughts. I'm a lot like that myself, and I like the way you pointed out that it just creates confusion.
Yes, I was in that place some years ago as well, and I learned that I'm in the position to stop it. And if I don't like it, I can say stop. Um, these thoughts have no place right now. And if something important pops up in my mind and I want to remember it, I know I have a mobile phone. So wherever I am, I can take a notice and have a look on it later. So I don't need to remember it or have it in my mind because I know I have pointed it down with a notice and I will have a look on later. And now I can be present. And by being present, the productivity raise up. I'm more focused and more clear in my mind.
Mm.
Oh, then a nice topic as well comes up, which I want to mention right now is setting priorities. If I set my priorities, I know what is important for me right now and what isn't, and what I want to do now and what I will do later on. And if I plan my day, so procrastination also will have no place. And I know if this thought does not match in my calendar right now, so I can plan it when I will have a look on it and it has not to bother me anymore.
Yeah, so setting priorities. Hard to do when you're confused. So more clarity, then we can move to a place where we can set priorities. That's what I hear you saying.
Uh, Yes, being clear of our desires, wants, needs, and knowing what has to be done today, which would be different for everybody. But when we are setting priorities, I will suggest to put a little time for self-care as well, where we have some little times for ourselves, where we can practice it and which will give us a little power back and by being in our power, our mind is clear or clearer, much clearer.
Yes, I love that. How much self-care time per day might one indulge in?
So it depends on the time he or she has, but oftentimes 10 minutes are enough because if I'm in a very busy situation and my head is full of everything, so and I quit the situation for example 10 minutes and I use active breathing, deep breathing, or just uh, uh, being a short time outside and getting the head clear will help a person as well.
Mhm.
So it's
So
not always that we need to take some hours to come back in our power. If we realize it in time and we say, okay, now I need a break, and even if it is 10 minutes, and after 10 minutes I will narrow focused work, so I will do much more in this time than if I will not have this break for myself.
yeah, so again, it comes back to awareness and just noticing, when you need that brain break or that 10-minute self-care, stepping back time for yourself. Yes. Hmm.
Yes, be your best observer.
I like that. Be your best observer. That's beautiful. And I also really appreciate the way you're saying just get a little bit more of your power back by doing these things. It's amazing how we can go through the day and we just start giving away pieces of our power, pieces of our energy, pieces of our soul. And then at the end of the week or the end of the day or the end of the hour, we're like, wow, I feel so depleted. So just, calling that energy back to present moment awareness. It's really nice.
Yes, yes, it's very important
And go
because
ahead.
I believe if we are in our power, we allow our environment to do so, and if we are weak, we cannot render too much to the world. So um, it's like maybe with money. If I don't have money, I cannot lend someone money. And if I have it, I can use it and I can give it even away if I want. And so it is with our energy and time as well.
Hmm. During our time today, I've heard you mention clarity quite a few times. As a coach, as a hypnosis coach and an NLP trainer, can you give us some examples about how you would support people to step into deeper clarity when they're facing a problem?
Yes, because our focus is dependent upon our belief systems, upon our experiences. So it's just if we want to compare it, it will be like a little thing on a football field. Um, but the thing we are conscious about and all the other football field will be the unknown. And by asking a lot of questions, what was said, really said, without interpreting what we felt or what we think we have heard, by really asking every point of it, and by asking a lot of questions, we can bring more awareness into a situation. So and by doing so, it's to ask several questions. What was said? Sometimes people say something and it's not a whole sentence, and then our brain tends to fill it with our beliefs or experiences, although it wasn't even said. So by becoming clear what really was said, and how I was feeling then, and what were my thoughts then to it, so putting it into several parts, and then having an objective look on it would help to become more clear.
Hmm. It also sounds a little bit to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you're asking people also to take ownership of their emotions or what was said or not said. Um, what is the importance of taking ownership for your part?
Yes, because then I know, okay, the basic emotion I felt was this, and what were my thoughts to it. But it does not mean that the other person meant the same. Um, as we thought maybe it could be. And here's the point where miscommunication often arouse, because we think, aha, this person said something like that, I didn't like it, and we are not searching the common, and we are not speaking it out because of some suppressed emotions we don't want to feel.
Hmm. Back to suppressed emotions again. In North America, I don't know about Europe, although I love Europe and I've been there a lot, but we are kind of encouraged and programmed, I would go so far as to say, to suppress our emotions instead of, process and express them.
Yes, in Europe it's the same, and it's as we haven't learned it when we are children, and our past or our growing up influenced us and programmed us in a certain way. Um, I like the example that we came to this world like a little unfilled bottle. And when we grew up, it was filled with beliefs from our environment, from teachers, from parents, from persons who were here for us when we grew up, with their beliefs, with what we can do or have to do or may do, how the regulations is, how you can pass good through life. So it was a learning process for us, and it's deep in our subconscious mind, as our subconscious mind never forgets. There may be some things we cannot remember consciously, but it's programmed in here in us, and we have a certain tendency to act in certain situations. And therefore I'm really for that, to become aware of how we are acting, behaving, thinking and feeling, because then we can see either it is our belief and if we want this belief or not, or is it something we took over some years ago and we don't even know it.
Yeah, that's always an aha moment when you're like, wait, that belief system doesn't fit for me anymore, or it was never mine, or just consciously choosing, I don't want to subscribe to that belief system anymore and hit delete on that technology running in our sophisticated brains. I was part of a neat conversation the other day, and this gentleman asked me to Google, and everyone at home can Google this, the processing speed of our conscious mind and then the processing speed of our subconscious mind. And it's like, quantum difference in terms of speed. So I agree with you when you said that the subconscious mind is taking it all in like that football field. It's a really great metaphor, Andrea.
Yes. And why not filling it with things we like instead of things and stuff we don't like?
Mm, yeah,
Because
yes.
it's this part of us which is leading us through our life. So it's where our habits are in. So, like when we were children and we learned, for example, writing, it was quite hard for us at the beginning. But today, no one thinks when we write, so we take a pen and paper and write something. And the same it was by riding a bicycle or doing any other activity. So it was a learning process. And by habit, doing it often, practicing it until it becomes a habit, today we don't even think about how hard it was at the beginning when we were learning it, because we are subconsciously mastering it. It's a habit, we do it without thinking, and so it can become with our emotions as well, and with everything uh, we want.
Yeah, I like that so much, and it reminds me too of just, we can just do this for little intervals of 10 minutes per day or 10 minutes 6 times per day, and we'll see a massive change, a massive positive change, I would suggest, in how we regulate, those alive emotions and coming to a more neutralized state of being as well. I want to circle back before we close, and just talk a little bit more about self love and self care. Um, I notice there's a lot of confusion around this. Sometimes I'll even have guests on my show that say, self love is going for a facial. And not that I disagree with that, but just ask you to address the concept of self love by deepening it beyond a foot bath, beyond a selfie on Instagram, as a self love, act of self love. We talked about it a little bit already, where we said being patient with ourselves when we're so angry and full of rage. Those are times where it's really, really more maybe you could chat from your perspective about deeply loving and respecting ourselves and creating even boundaries with ourselves. Because if we can't hold a boundary with ourselves, how can we hold a boundary with another human being? So, um,
Yes, we are worthy, and maybe there is a old belief system within us which tells us on a subconscious level, so we are not consciously aware of. So you are not allowed to do that. Maybe it was said to us when we were little children and we believed it, and so we can become aware that we are allowed to live ourselves, and by loving ourselves, we can give much more to our environment back and to the world, which we could never do when we would not love ourselves enough and set healthy boundaries, because it would be a matter of time maybe until a person would break down, and when a person is weak, this person is not in a position to help others or to be there for even the family or the environment. So
yeah.
we are allowed to take care for ourselves, and to own our emotions back, to come back into our power, to notice what we want and what we don't want, and by being a little observer we can see this. So with there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, that's so hard. It's difficult." But let's take little steps. We can ask ourselves the question on what we want to drink right now. We can do it with, do I want to choose today this or this color to for my clothing, or do I want today this or this options? And by asking a lot of questions, it becomes a habit as well. So it we can go to, let's say, bigger things. So when we have to say another person that we don't have time today, um, but we can start a negotiation and saying, okay, today it does not match, but how about meeting in 1 2 days?
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that, just taking those little steps, and then you can begin to build a momentum of self-love, and then even a bigger, more beautiful momentum of self-love, but little tiny steps, asking yourself those questions. Um,
Yes,
there's
because if the step is too huge, maybe someone will be afraid and freeze out and do nothing. So we always want to take a little step and doing it today. What can I do today already? And maybe it are just 2 minutes we take for ourselves, but we do them consciously and we are present, and so we come into that this momentum.
Yes, exactly. Little steps, build a momentum, and just maybe just one thing, just one step towards self-love. Especially when we're hating ourselves, because sometimes we do feel that, that we hate ourselves. I see it all the time in the world when I walk around. So, okay, so one step towards self-love. That's very cool.
And then valuing it or celebrating it. And even it was a bee-sized little step. So we honor and value it and we recognize it. So we are not putting it away. So we have really a look on it and say, okay, that was a little step, but it was done.
Yeah, why not? Why not honor ourselves and make it fun? A fun process. And that's a neat thing about coaching for others that may not know is that it is a celebratory engagement. It is a celebration. So you can get a lot of positive momentum going with a coach or NLP coach or any kind of coaching conversation. It's really valuable. Very valuable conversation. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome.
And I'm just curious if someone on this beautiful planet wanted to reach out to you and connect with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
At the moment, the best way will be via email, which will be andrealukat.coaching@gmail.com. And I would appreciate if you liked or have learned something today, and just give me a feedback on what it was and how you could implement it in your life today. And if there was something you didn't like, so please let me know as well.
I like that. And thank you for cueing me because I also wanted to mention that Andrea and all my guests are available to make comments on the YouTube channel. If you have a question or you're struggling with a difficult emotion or you've got some kind of, opinion that you want to express, we will respond to you right away, both of us on the YouTube channel when this episode airs in a recorded version on social media. So anything, I invite you to just open it up and any golden nugget you'd like to share before we close today, Andrea? Anything left unsaid or
Yes, be your greatest observer and know yourself first.
amazing? I love that. Thank you. Thank you. So that's a really nice place to close. Um, that's all we have time for today. Once again, thanks for taking the time for joining us on the Healing Broken Families podcast, where we expand our consciousness, find solutions, and I get to sit down with really amazing souls like yourself. So please take the time to subscribe on YouTube, make a 5-star review for the podcast on Apple. It just encourages us to keep going in this content creation, and um, it builds, positive momentum for us. So we would uh, appreciate it if you did that. Reach out anytime. Wishing everyone a beautiful day. Peace, love, light, and namaste.